Data analysis methods can be grouped according to whether the research is qualitative or quantitative. Popular data analysis methods in qualitative research include qualitative content analysis, thematic analysis, discourse narrative analysis, grounded theory, and IPA. If you are in the process of preparing a thesis or research project, you probably encountered the term qualitative content analysis. What is content analysis? Content analysis is a comprehensive guide to analyzing recorded human artifacts like manuscripts, voice recordings, and journals to uncover patterns, meanings, and insights in qualitative research. Content analysis is a qualitative method focusing on recorded human artifacts, text, audio, video, without requiring direct participant interaction. The key advantage of a content analysis is to analyze existing data like social media posts, books, and emails through unobtrusive research. When working with content analysis, explicit and implicit content will play a role. Explicit data is transparent and easy to identify, while implicit data is that which requires some form of interpretation and is often of a subjective nature. There are two types of content analysis: conceptual analysis and relational analysis. Conceptual analysis focuses on the number of times a concept occurs in a set of data and is generally focused on explicit data. Relational content analysis has a different focus than conceptual content analysis. Instead of looking at the numbers, it assesses the relationships between different concepts as well as how they are connected and the context in which they appear. There are three types of relational analysis: effect extraction, proximity analysis, cognitive mapping. Effect extraction is when you assess concepts according to emotional attributes. These emotions are typically mapped on scales, such as a Likert scale or a rating scale, ranging from 1 to 5, where 1 is very sad and 5 is very happy. If participants are talking about their achievements, they are likely to be given a score of 4 or 5, depending on how good they feel about it. If a participant is describing a traumatic event, they are likely to have a much lower score, either 1 or 2. Proximity analysis identifies how terms occur in text to extract themes and develop meaning. Cognitive mapping compares texts visually to track changes in terms and meanings over time. Content analysis is typically used in studies where the aim is to better understand factors such as behaviors, attitudes, values, emotions, and opinions. For example, you could use content analysis to investigate an issue in society, such as miscommunication between cultures. Another example could include conducting content analysis on a publication, such as a book. Here you could gather data on the themes, topics, language use, and opinions reflected in the text to draw conclusions regarding the political leanings of the publication. How to conduct a qualitative content analysis. There are 4 steps in preparing your analysis. The first step, to review research questions. Clarify what you are investigating to focus coding efforts and avoid irrelevant data. The second step is to identify your biases. Practice bracketing to recognize personal perspectives and prevent them from influencing analysis. Next, you need to operationalize your variables. But what does it mean? It means that you have to define each variable or concept. Give every item a clear definition. What does it mean? And what does it not mean? For example, if you were to investigate children's views on healthy foods, you would first need to define what age group range you are looking at, and then also define what you mean by healthy foods. In combination with the above, it is important to create a coding scheme, which will consist of information about your variables, how you define each variable, as well as a process for analyzing the data. The next step is to code the data. That means that you use deductive or inductive coding to identify concepts and relationships. Analyzing results to find patterns and generalizations to draw conclusions. How to conduct conceptual analysis. Once you've decided on your level of analysis, you need to establish how you will code your concepts and how many of these you want to code. Here you can choose whether you want to code in a deductive or inductive manner. Just to recap, deductive coding is when you begin the coding process with a set of predetermined codes, whereas inductive coding entails the codes emerging as you progress with the coding process. Here it is also important to decide what should be included and excluded from your analysis, and also what levels of implication you wish to include in your codes. How to conduct relational analysis. You will need to create categories by reducing your data, in other words, grouping similar concepts together, and then also code for words and or patterns. These are both done with the aim of discovering whether these words exist and if they do, what they mean. Your next step is to assess your data and to code the relationships between your terms and meanings so that you can move on to your final step, which is to sum up and analyze the data. Content analysis is a systematic, flexible, qualitative method for uncovering insights from human artifacts. Success requires clear research questions, bias awareness, precise variable definitions, and rigorous coding to reveal meaningful patterns.